Hey, everybody. Welcome. Thanks for joining. Give it a sec for everybody to connect their audio. While we're waiting, there's a QR code here. If you haven't already signed up, you can sign up for Leland. Tons of free resources, and we'll keep you in the loop with events that we have going on. We do a ton of free events like this, so definitely sign up if you haven't already. All right, maybe we'll get started. I think a few folks are still joining, but we can kick it off here. All right, so this session is I've called it Mastering the Case, 5 essential things to get right in every case. So I've structured this to be sort of a blend between general information for folks who are new to the recruiting process and new to casing, as well as some specifics for folks as well, who maybe are a little bit further along in the process. So before we dive into it, just want to give you a little bit about my background. So my name's Tim. I grew up in Salt Lake City, started my career at Goldman Sachs, working with hedge funds in the prime brokerage space. I was really interested in management consulting while I was at Goldman, and did a little recruiting before I went to business school, and then ultimately got my MBA from Chicago Booth. And I was an admissions fellow, so involved with MBA admissions at Chicago. And I also, went through the recruiting process myself, got an internship at BCG, or Boston Consulting Group. And then I was recruiting dad is what they called it at Booth, where I had like 10 first years that I was responsible for helping them go through the recruiting process. So that was like the first time I really got any exposure to coaching or supporting other folks through the process. Um, and then when I joined BCG full time, I had lots of friends, who would reach out, or folks who would reach out on LinkedIn and ask for support, and I, help them go through the case process and answer their questions and everything. And then once I was promoted to a project leader, I got directly involved in the recruiting process. So traveling to different university campuses and networking with folks. I was like one of the school sponsors for Chicago Booth 1 year, so in charge of like the recruiting the next class of consultants. Then I've been heavily involved in interviewing as well. So I've done case interviews and fit interviews on behalf of the firm, and also helped write some of the cases that were used in some of the interviews. So that is a little bit about me. I'd love to just take a second to hear a little bit about some of you all. If you want to throw in the chat where you're from, where you're coming from, where you are in the process. Uh, would love to get to know you a little better. From Peru, love it. Charlotte, pre-MBA candidate. Okay, PhD. Oh, from Paris. Oh my goodness. In Seoul. Wow, this is amazing. University of Michigan. I have done some recruiting there. Chicago. I'm sorry if it's still freezing. NBA. Awesome. Wow, Germany. At a startup in Frankfurt. Wow. My mom is from Switzerland, so we have like some German heritage. Wow, this is amazing. Okay, you guys, I'm so excited. Um, Harvard Medical School, amazing. Okay. Um, Cool. Welcome everybody. I would say, my goal is to make this as interactive as possible. So this is really your time. I've been involved in recruiting, centered around BCG for a long time, and I would like to, be as open and sort of make this as helpful to you as possible. So, if you are comfortable, like turn on your camera, and feel free to raise your hand or just come off mute and ask any questions you have. I'll try to stop periodically to give folks a chance to ask questions and try to make this as useful for you as possible. So before we dive into the content, just want to give a couple of pages on Leland for folks who may not be as familiar. So Leland's mission, we're really a one-stop shop to help folks accomplish their goals. And this typically centers around breaking into most competitive companies in the world, where we do a lot of admissions consulting and coaching as well. And so we have sort of three different categories. One-on-one is specialized training is probably the most common. And we do a bunch of free events like this one. And I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, know there's a bunch of other events this week centered around consulting. And then we also have this incredible platform of on-demand content called Leland Plus. And I just like personal vouch for Leland Plus. I've developed a lot of consulting content on Leland Plus. I have personally written BCG cases that are used in the interview process, and I have also written custom cases for Leland Plus. So if you want case prep and you want some example cases from folks who have written cases or worked inside of MBB firms, like those are sitting on Leland Plus. So it's an incredible resource with tons of tools, tons of videos, and it's all sort of self-directed, so you can do it as you have time if you have a busy schedule. So would definitely look into that. All right, this is one of our favorite slides, and really this is just to show our process works. We've helped folks get into like every top consulting firm, every major business school, every top competitive tech company. So we have experts sort of across the gamut, but in consulting, absolutely have folks who have been involved in recruiting at McKinsey, Bain, BCG, and a myriad of other firms. All right, what does the support look like? Just to give you a sense. So I have helped folks across really every part of the application process or recruiting process for BCG. So, a lot of folks will do like end-to-end coaching, where we sort of start at the very beginning, talk about your strategy, then go into the networking process, review your resume, cover letter, if it's applicable, make sure you're pulling out specific things that the firm really cares about. And then case interview prep and fit prep, as well as general career guidance, how to make the most of the experience once you start. If you have an internship, like some best practices to make sure you can land the return offer. So there's all of these different components, and I would say I typically work with folks either sort of like from an end-to-end approach, or if you have a specific aspect of this, like if networking stresses you out. I've had a lot of clients reach out and say, hey, I just don't know how to play the networking game. Like, we just get a couple hours. It's definitely a dance where, in a couple hours of just talking through it, you can significantly increase your effectiveness. Same with case interviews, right? If that stresses you out, we're going to talk about some tips today. But if you have additional questions, like definitely reach out, and happy to support. All right, any questions before we dive into the case interview content? All right, let's jump into it. So 5 things I want to talk about with consulting case interviews today. And these are just like some general tips, but I can't stress enough like how important these different principles are to executing a successful case interview. So I think it's helpful to share a bit of context around why these things matter. So I'll be going into that, and then some tips about how to really make the most of each of these. One or two or several of these may sort of be stressing you out. And so some of these tips and specific tricks can help maybe help put your nerves at ease and kind of help you successfully execute each portion.